can see here, this is what we've taken in revenue-wise over that same period of time. In 06-07, as I mentioned before, we spent about $204,000. We took in $218,000, so we made roughly $14,000 in 06-07. Then in 07-08, we basically broke even. We spent about as much as we brought in. But currently for this year, I mentioned to you, we've spent about $112,000. Well, our revenues have been more in the $110,000 range, which reflects what I commented on earlier, that we've spent about $3,000 in the reserve. And that's how that would be reflected there. There are some major concerns that we've heard back from people in the office as far as if we were to outsource this service. One is, of course, the quality of the pickup. There, in the fact of course, we've heard stories about trash being torn through and trash being left on people's curbs. We've heard about canisters being left out in the streets, missing canisters. We've heard about, of course, the trash service providers actually missing a location and not coming back to cover that area, because currently right now, of course, one of the strengths of having it inside is that if we miss something, we can go back and get it. That may not always be the option. That's one of the things that's included in our proposal, is that before they leave at the end of a service day, they would have to come back to the city office and check with us to make sure we haven't received any phone calls notifying us of misses through the day. So that's one of the ways we dealt with that particular issue. There's also a requirement within the proposal to cover the standards of care. Of course, policies and standards for care are one thing, actual practice is another thing that has to be taken into consideration. The next thing is, of course, the concern that the possible contract could go to someone outside of city. For instance, I understand there's a provider out of Carroll and there's a provider out of Fort Dodge, just off the top of my head to bring those up. And there's the concern that we would be outsourcing somewhere between $105,000 and $110,000 to another community by contracting this type of work out. And so you're basically taking city money and sending it outside of the community rather than getting it reinvested in the actual community itself. Another one is, of course, contracting with someone who actually goes out of business. A great example of this is going on in central Wisconsin right now. That's one of the reasons why when you do this, you put a bonding into place, so that if they go out of business, there is a bond there to secure you for a certain period of time to allow you to either take it back in-house or to contract with someone else. So that's a protection that's actually requested in the request for proposal to prevent those type of concerns. As I mentioned up there in Wisconsin, I'm aware of a community that actually the bond was never collected. There was never a request for a bond. Now the service provider is going out of business, and they're concerned that they may not have trash service in this local community for almost 6 months. So that is a significant concern if you don't protect yourself from those type of issues. Another one is, of course, the inflation of cost after an initial contract. I won't call it bait and switch practices, but we hear it all probably from the community, is that somebody will try to attempt to be the low bidder, and then with the plan of coming back in a 3 to 5 year period of time when the contract would be up, and attempt to see a significant increase in their services once they know that you're somewhat beholden to them, or that it's a little bit more of a hassle to actually go out and trying to outsource it to a different provider.
Adam?
Yes.
Well, in the last several days, I've contacted different communities, cities, some that's municipal, picked up, some's private. The answers that I got to the quality of the work, it's all been favorable. One is the Carroll Refuge, the other one, they're sitting right here. Rudd Sanitation, no complaints, no major complaints, let's put it that way. I've had some. One, the people start too early. And Sam, it wasn't you or Robbie, but it was the other company. They had to correct that. They were getting there, they were doing it and gone before the people were out of bed even. And they corrected that. The communities, like I say, they were in favor of Sam and Carol, and no major complaints other than that. They had other people, customer complaints. Brian, and you've gotten them, and we've all gotten them. They don't like the tags, and they definitely don't like going to the city office to buy bags or the grocery store to buy bags. That is a complaint, but you know, those that use it should pay for it. You know, it's like plowing the street. We all pay for that, and we all pay for garbage. But if you use more of it, you should actually be paying more. And the same way with the commercial customers. I mean, they have more weight, they use more of it, and I don't believe that we'll have a problem with the commercial people. But like I say, I've talked to communities, some's cheaper, and they tell me that's going to change very soon. Some is higher. The private haulers, the communities that I've talked to, you add ours and their rate, very comparable. So, you know, it's quite a thing. I have some figures and things. If you want it later on or something, you know, we can discuss that more in depth.
Just to give you an idea of what we're talking about doing in the request for proposal, and I actually might mention something Bob brought up. One of the things you actually asked me to adapt on the last proposal is it said it started at 6 a.m. It now says in the request for proposal that start time would be no earlier than 7 a.m. So that was one change that was made.
Adam, okay, there is one, and I found it very good, and it's something we should consider if it's outsourced. There's one community very much larger than our community. City doesn't get paid, the hauler doesn't get paid. So the city isn't stuck. I guess the hauler is stuck, because if he don't get paid, he hauls it, it's his expense. But I found that interesting. The city didn't get paid, the hauler didn't get paid, but also the service was discontinued until it was paid, and things were fine.
The only thing I'm not sure of on that is how that would affect our assessment from the county, because as a member of the current landfill, I don't know if that can be passed on to a private hauler or not, but there would be the matter of roughly mid-30s, 30 to somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000 to $40,000 a year in assessments that would have to be paid. Now, tipping fees, they can be passed on, but that I'm not sure. We'd have to check with the county to see if that's even possible here. Some of the things included in this current proposal are 940 residential customers. Now, this proposal does not include commercial customers. We have roughly 97, 98 commercial customers that would not be included in the current, if we changed it and outsourced it. One of the things we did include in the request for proposal is an addendum that actually requested that they provide us information on what their projections would be for customers that they would possibly offer their services to on commercials. We can ask that as a request, but there are some stipulations about exactly what we could do. Of course, another option there is that we could, and we know, I know at least, I was told just today about at least one community in Iowa where commercial service is required by the city as well, just like residential service, and that full service be provided just like we do with the residential service. I don't have all the details on that. As I said, that just came up this morning on whether or not that's even an avenue you wanted to entertain or not. But the way the current proposal is built up is it would not include the commercial customers into the service. The next would be of course, special pickups.